So this is a second lesson looking at media and sport. If we have a look at your specification, the things you've got to know are the positive and negative effects of media on the sport, looking at these three groups, and also the relationship between sport and the media. So sport is a commodity, and also the golden triangle. What is it? Can you give a few examples of it? So the first thing we're going to look at are the positive and negative effects of the media on sport. So what positive effects does the media have? What negative effects does it have? Now you want to be looking for about 4 advantages, 4 disadvantages for each of these. I'm going to try and give you a few. It's up to you to pick which ones you would most remember in an answer. So for individual sports, the main advantages are that if you've got more media coverage, then the media can raise the profile of many sports. And exposure can lead to increases in participation as it inspires that next generation of performers. This is usually seen during the Olympics and Wimbledon. So whenever Wimbledon's on, you go down to any local tennis court, there's going to be loads of people playing tennis because it's on TV at that particular time. The increased media coverage also increases the amount of revenue from sponsors. The more media coverage there is in a sport, the more sponsorship businesses are going to be investing into that sport. And that's going to be used to develop the sport, develop facilities, develop coaching. So for example, Sky have funded massively into women's and disability cricket, which has really helped develop those sports. Competition formats have also been changed. 2020 cricket now is shorter, it's faster, far more interesting than Test cricket because you've got all of these changes that have been introduced to get more people watching it. There's also been an increased profile of many minority sports, so hockey, netball, and now on Sky Sports a lot more than they used to be. And the media has resulted in a lot of more increased technology being used in sport. So we've got far fairer results than we would have done previously. If you look at sports here, for example, how much Premier League is getting from BT Sport and Sky. So they get £5.136 billion, okay, over 3 seasons. So the amount of money they're getting is unbelievable. And it's these sort of figures you want to be able to quote in your actual exam. But there are disadvantages to sports as well. Breaks are now used to just show adverts, any break in play, especially American football. Every time there's a break in play, there's adverts going on straight away. And it's what breaks up that flow of the game, which annoys fans. Match timings get altered. It used to be Saturday 3 o'clock kickoffs. Now we've got football constantly throughout the week. Super Sunday, Monday night football. The increased media coverage and hype that goes on, maybe especially between derby games, maybe Arsenal versus Spurs or Celtic Rangers, is often a reason for a rise in hooliganisms that's always linked to sport as well. It's always going to be biased towards male and able-bodied sports, so football will always get most money, minority sports end up getting left behind. Negative role models are going to be created. If we see more violence on the TV, then young athletes might copy that and bring that into their grassroots sports. And also the impact pay-per-view has had. So pay-per-view, if you don't have enough money to pay for that boxing fight on Sky, then you're not going to be able to watch it. So certain sports are going to have less people watching it because of this impact of the media. When we're looking at performers, there are advantages to performers having the media in sport. They can earn far, far more money the more they're on TV. And also, they've got increased career opportunities. Once it finishes and once their careers in sport are finished, they can go on and potentially become a pundit, maybe on, I don't know, Sky Sports for football. And also they can become positive role models. They're on the media and they're being seen by more people, then they can start to inspire those younger generations. But there are also disadvantages as well. The media demands an awful lot from sports and from performers, giving interviews, presentations, personal appearances, and they start to feel like their lives are a bit dictated by the media. And this can result in deviant behaviours such as drug taking because they still want that high income that they're getting, but maybe they need to take the drugs in order to maintain those high standards. There's also a loss of privacy and intrusion because the media is going to investigate athletes an awful lot because they're in the public eye. If you look at Ronaldo and his tax evasion, it would have caused an awful lot of anxiety for himself, his family, because it was in the news an awful lot. So they lose quite a lot of privacy because of the impact of the media on sport. For spectators, there are clear advantages. So if we look at sport now being this globalized sport that you can watch any sport from any part of the world, basically at any time, whether you're streaming it or watching it on Sky Sports, it's a massive advantage because you can watch sport 24/7. It's being made more entertaining for fans. We've got adapted rules, big screen replays, the 100, 2020 cricket, all changing for fans to make it more interesting. There's an increase in standards of play because it's allowed more professionalism in sport. And remember, the more professional a sport gets, the higher the standards are going to develop. There's more people watching sport generally because we have access to it 24/7. Sky Sports commentary and game analysis is so detailed that spectators are now getting a deeper understanding for the sports that they love so much. And also, many spectators are going to be motivated to go on and play sports after they've watched it. Like Wimbledon tennis being on TV, people then go out to the park and start playing it there. But there are disadvantages for spectators as well, because firstly, there's going to be far more people spectating there and are actually participating in sport. The use of VAR and all those other things that the media have brought into sport has started to slow the game down a lot, and fans don't like that. They feel it interrupts the flow of the game. There's often so much sport on TV and in the media that people are getting a little bit sick with it. It's become a little bit saturated because there's too much out there, and people sometimes lose their interest in it because of that. There's also been a decline in attendance at live games in certain sports because you can watch it at home in the comfort of your own home. Costs an awful lot less than going to a match. So live spectatorship has started to decrease in certain sports. For some spectators, you can only watch certain sports if you have a subscription. The Ryder Cup, Test cricket, they're all going to pay-per-view boxing are only going to be available to you if you have that subscription, which is starting to cost an awful lot of money. Now, the last thing we're going to start to look at is this relationship between sport and the media. So you need to understand that sport is seen as a commodity and also understand what the golden triangle is. So we're going to start with the golden triangle, this idea that there is a link between sponsorship, media and sport, and they're all sort of reliant on each other. They've become interdependent on each other. The sport relies on media and sponsorship relies on sport and the media relies on sponsorship and sport. They're all reliant on each other. Now, sport is seen as a commodity. It's seen as something that can be bought, sold, traded. You can see that simply from the bidding wars that occur between Sky, BT, Amazon for the rights to show football games. And many sports are now much more dependent on the media. And as a result of this, a lot of wealthy people are coming in and trying to own sports clubs. Look at Roman Abramovich at Chelsea, for example, because sports clubs can bring in an awful lot of revenue from media outlets. Now, if we look at this golden triangle, sponsors obviously benefit. Okay, the sponsors gain exposure for their product or services. It gets advertised, sports watched a lot, so a lot of people get to see their product adverts. Sport benefits, it gets a lot of revenue, prizes, the popularity, it's got a raised profile as a result of the media being involved, and it can develop their equipment and resources because of the money from sponsors. And the media obviously benefit. They get revenue from companies wanting to advertise with them, and they also get increased number of viewers from watching the sport. Now, the media coverage of sports leads to huge sponsorship deals. Nike and other companies put large amounts of money into their commercial activity. And the sponsorship of team and individuals is a way of improving their brand. If you look at MetLife, they pay $70 million a year to have its name on the stadium of New York Giants and New York Jets in America, which is a massive amount of money just to have your name on a stadium. But they know that will be seen every time it's on TV, every time break in play goes and shows the stadium, that their company is going to be advertised. So, quick recap: elite sports attract spectators. So this has a big benefit to the sport. They get increased revenue, they get increased popularity and a raised profile. Media companies then pay sports to show the sport on TV, and the media gets benefits. It gets revenue from advertising, and it gets increased viewers who want to watch sport. Then the media globalizes sport worldwide. It attracts sponsors as the sponsors can see that potential to hit a global audience. And this obviously benefits the sponsors as well. They gain exposure for all of their products and all of their services. So everyone sort of benefits in this. Now, what would be great in an exam would be able to give an example. So the first little part, we're going to look at an example of a club or player and the sponsor relationship. So here we've got football. You got Aon paid 180 million pounds to sponsor Man United's training gear and training ground. And then you've got the sponsor media relationship. So Aon increased their brand awareness because it's seen more on TV. Okay, the sponsors are getting good relationship from the media. And then you've got the club media relationship. Man United obviously benefit from their share of the TV rights. Remember, media and BBC, Sky, BT Sport all pay massive amounts of money for the TV rights, and clubs benefit from that. And also, Sky increases its number of subscribers because people want to view live Premiership football, and they can't do it unless they have that subscription. So being able to give an example like this where you can show the different interactions of the Golden Triangle will be absolutely brilliant in an exam. Now we're just going to finish off with looking at the advantages and the disadvantages of the Golden Triangle. The big advantage is it brings in a lot of sponsorship. The sports that gain the media coverage are going to have far, far more money. So it's going to benefit the athletes, benefit the sport. There's a lot of funding involved. So sports that have the media coverage are going to be able to get more funding to develop participation, facilities, grassroots sport as well. It resulted in rule changes, made sport far, far more entertaining. Spectators have also benefited from the Golden Triangle because they've got an increased availability of sport due to increased media coverage. And sponsors obviously benefit. They get revenue because they're linked to sports and they're linked to sport performers because people want to buy those products. But obviously there's disadvantages as well. Event timings are often getting influenced by media coverage. So the Olympics are really now designed for American audiences, so other countries lose out because they're trying to hit that mass market of American viewers. There's massive inequality. Obviously, sponsorship is always going to favour big sports like football, and the little sports like table tennis are going to be getting less funding as a result. There's a big pressure to win. The media funding increases the pressure to win or get sponsorship. So athletes are always going to be showing that win at all costs, which could end up with them taking drugs or being violent on the pitch because they know the importance of winning in order to get more sponsorship. There's a lot of advertising, and advertising increases due to sponsorship, and the media pressure can detract from the sports event itself. If I look at my son, he started watching football games a bit now. He always seems a bit more interested in Pokemon coming up on the digital boards during each game than he does sometimes of football itself. And finally, life pressure. The media, the sponsorship adds pressure to athletes' lives. And sometimes that's going to provide anxiety for them, their family, because they feel so committed to do what the sponsors want. So make sure you've got these notes down. We'll go through it a bit next lesson.